Good morning, hello, welcome back to Everdeen. If you're new here, this is a French farmhouse in the Auvergne region that was built in the year 1800, and I am a circus artist with no skills that is basically attempting to remodel this house. That sounds insane when I say it. When you say it out loud, it sounds real crazy, but things are moving ahead, and today I am a woman on a mission because I have set myself a task, a goal, and that goal is to tackle the dining room, which is one of the biggest projects that we're going to tackle on the first floor of the house. This is just a complete remakeover. Like, it is a remakeover. Is remakeover a word? Sure, it is now. It's a remakeover of this entire room. Basically, it's starting from scratch, down to the walls, which I'll get to in a minute because there's a lot going on with the walls and that's a main problem. But first, a little backstory, because a couple of years ago, the helpers, who are my lovely parents who come and help out here quite often, and I went to Dublin, Ireland. I had a job, they were visiting, we had a lovely time, and we went to visit a castle called Malahide Castle. And this castle is very famous for the burnt orange walls in the living room and dining room there. It was a very unique color at the time when the castle was built, and it became kind of a major fashion trend at the time to paint something Malahide orange. So that is going to be my inspiration for this room, which maybe is a little ambitious because, first off, as I've mentioned before, I have very few skills, but you know, fortunately, I have a support system of people who do have skills that can advise me. Secondly, I'm operating on an extremely low budget for this one because the good news is that there are workmen coming to work in the barn, which we're also renovating very soon. The bad news is because I'm paying the workmen for a major project there, I have to really economize on other projects. However, I think that we can do this for a very low budget. I'm not quite sure how low that's going to be yet, but we're gonna shoestring it the whole way. Now, there is a company in the UK that makes the Malahide orange color, and it's specifically mixed to be the exact color of the walls in the castle. And my original plan was to buy that specific paint and have the identical color here, but that plan has changed for a couple of reasons. First off, they do not ship paint to France. My other issue is that I would have the exact color of the walls in the castle, but I don't know if that's going to be the exact optimal shade of burnt orange for this room with the lighting in this room. So what I've decided to do instead is to go to our local paint shop here in my village and get a couple of samples and just see if I can find a sample of burnt orange paint that will look nice in this setting with this specific lighting. Well, hopefully it'll be a little bit cheaper, so that would be great too. But let me show you the main issue of what we need to do to the walls. If you follow this channel, you probably know what's coming next. Here it is again. So in this room, like in most of the house, someone got really excited in about the 1950s and made some totally crazy design choices, including covering every surface they could find in the horrible, dated, rough, blighted, detested, crappy cement. Basically, this is just a textured cement on the walls, and I hate it from the depths of my soul. So step number one is going to be to smooth out the wall texture in here. Fortunately, we only have to do 3 walls because this last wall over here is wood and is already smooth. So all we've got to do is find a way to smooth out 3 walls. All we've got to do. I did try putting paintable wallpaper on them, and for some reason the paintable wallpaper is just falling off. I don't know if that's because of the texture of the wall or possibly because of the paint that is on the wall here, but it's just not working out. So I think what we're going to need to do is some kind of putty situation. Laurent, my boyfriend, who has many renovation skills as opposed to my almost 0, has told me that there's kind of a putty that you can use a roller similar to a paint roller and roll it onto the walls and then smooth it out really well so that you just have to sand a little bit off after it dries. And that might be the best solution for this room. There's just so much wall space that needs to get smoothed out and the paper is just not working. So I think that that's what we're gonna do. He also told me that before we do that putty, we need to just start to sand down the walls to try to get rid of any bigger little bumps and imperfections that might show through the putty. So I think that's the first thing I'm gonna do, is start to really sand down and smooth out the walls as much as I can with the sander. Should feel really satisfying to like rip paper off the wall. And in a way it does. But also it's kind of really depressing because I spent hours, I spent a day and a half putting this paper up and it's just not stuck at all. I have sanded, I have pulled down the old wallpaper, and now it's off to the hardware store where I'm gonna buy the enduit à rouleau. Yet another construction product that I only know the name of in French. I guess it's a roll-on putty. And then I'm going to come back here and test it out and hopefully it will be good. I'll be very happy if it's good and easy. That would be great. Let's do that. Well, I'm back from the store and my neighbor is mowing his lawn with something that I can only guess must have been built by NASA. It is so loud. It is the biggest engine I've ever heard on a lawnmower. It's intense. Things are intense. You can hear it. But I did have success in that I bought this. It's heavy. This is a kit for roll-on putty, and I can't open it now, of course. There we go. So it came with a special roller, and a nice wide scraper, and of course a big bucket of putty. So theoretically, this is all the stuff that I need to get to puttying and get this done. It says 30 square meters. That should be, I'm hoping at least 2 walls, maybe all 3 walls, especially because this wall has the window and the fireplace, so I don't need to do all of this wall. Fingers crossed. The beauty of this is that I do not need to protect the floor in any way because the floor is covered in carpet, the carpet's going, and we don't need to protect the carpet. So yeah, this is great. I love this plan. Okay, so I have to say, this seems to be working pretty well. I have hopes. I have high hopes for this, higher than I did for the wallpaper. So that's progress. I will also say though, I'm having to layer this stuff on like a 5-year-old putting ketchup on his chicken nuggets. I am just throwing as much of this as possible onto the wall, way more than I thought I would have to put onto the wall. It's fine, but it's very, 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 very messy. You can see my hands already. I've done about half of one wall and already I'm turning into a snowman. It is on my hands, it is on my feet, it is on my face, it is on my clothes, it is on the floor a lot. Fortunately, like I said before, the carpet's covering the floor. I would say if you're going to use this product, you need to have a really intense cleanup preparation, putting plastic or paper down to protect your room because it is everywhere. It's the moment of truth. Let's see how this smooths out. It's actually really not bad. There's hope for these walls. I think after a second coat, this could be quite good. First coat on wall number 1 is done. However, it did take up all of the rollable putty that I needed. So I guess that while this starts to dry, it is off to the hardware store to buy a lot more putty. Okay, here's the deal, because we've had to adjust the plan. When I arrived at the hardware store, the only rollable putty that they had was the kit like I'd already bought. That was 28 euros. The only other option was this putty in pat, in like dough. Pat is dough in French. That doesn't make any sense, but it's more of like a Play-Doh consistency than a rollable option. It's the typical putty that you would use for filling like small holes and for smoothing things out normally before you paint. So this was 17 euros, much more budget friendly. Maybe I'm making a terrible mistake because maybe the rollable one is a lot like faster and easier, but I would have had to buy 4 boxes at 28 euros instead of 2 for the same amount of putty at 17 euros. So we're gonna switch over, and hopefully this works equally well. Oh, also, the big advice that I got from our construction expert, Laurent, was that I need to use the mixer attachment on the drill to mix this up and make it as soft as possible before I use it. Let's try to do that. You guys, I have uncovered a massive corporate conspiracy. The truth is out. I have discovered the truth, and nothing will ever be the same because you can totally apply the normal putty with a roller. It is 5:30 p.m. and there is putty on 3 of the walls, because remember I wasn't doing the 4th wall, but all the walls that need putty have got a coat of putty on them, and I'm very pleased with that. I'm really proud of myself for getting this much done today. So now this all has to dry so I can come back in tomorrow morning and sand it down and do a second coat if we need a second coat. And I also have my entire body is covered in putty, so I think it's gonna be time for a nice hot bath very soon. But before I turn in for the day, I have one more little job that I want to do. I want to take my paint that I bought and do a test patch on the one wall that is not getting puttied, so that tomorrow morning it will be dry and I can see what the dry finished paint color is and see if it's the color that I want to use. I think it's quite close to the color that I want, so fingers crossed, hopefully it is the right color. Okay, so for the moment, this is slightly lighter and slightly brighter than I was hoping it would be, but I'm not going to judge it until I see it tomorrow when it's dry. And also I'll probably put a second coat on just to see what 2 coats would look like, because here you can still see some of the original color through the paint. I would prefer if it kind of settled up as it dried and became a little bit more of a burnt orange than a bright orange like this one, but it's not miles away from what I'm looking for. I know that this is a really strong color statement, but bear with me here because there is a method to my madness, probably. Because in the castle, it was actually really cleverly done how the burnt orange bright color worked with the rest of the room. So the idea of the orange is that you take art and other decorations that are gold and have the gold next to the burnt orange, and that really makes the gold pop out. You can see here. It just really adds like an element of warmth to the room with the gold popping out, with the orange happening. And I think that's really nice for a dining room because you generally want like warm colors with food because it makes you feel more appetized, more, I guess, hungry, and it makes you, it tends to have more of a mealtime vibe with warm colors. So that is the plan. The other part of the plan is that maybe this won't be the entire wall. I'm considering, God help me, doing more wainscoting, faux wainscoting like I did in the blue bedroom. So if you have seen the video where I did the renovation of the blue bedroom upstairs, I did a faux wainscoting all over the walls with adding strips of wood to create kind of fake wood paneling. It was hellish because no walls in this entire house are straight or square, but in the end it looked really great. So we might do that here. If I lose my mind and decide just to make my entire life miserable for 2 weeks, we might do that here. What I'm thinking is potentially we could do like a waist-high fake wainscoting in a cream color so that only the upper part of the wall would be the orange. The other thing we might do in this room is to have kind of curtains and maybe a rug in the same color, possibly also cream or possibly a dark blue, because in the castle, again, the curtains were dark blue and they looked really amazing, so I might steal that idea as well. But for tonight, this needs to dry, the putty needs to dry. It is time for a long hot bath where I scrub off a lot of putty off my body, and then a glass of wine, and I'm going to get back to this tomorrow, and I will see you guys then. So fast forward to tomorrow. That was a lot of work. I'm starting to get really tired, but I'm really committed to getting at least 1 coat of color on the walls tonight. The good news on that front is that there is primer on 3 of the walls, so they are ready to be color coded. The bad news is that the 4th wall is behind this massive piece of furniture. So I'm gonna attempt to move it. This may be a terrible idea. It is empty, so it's as light as it could possibly be. And I'm just gonna try to scoot it. I'm just gonna scoot it forward and hope for the best. Well, I'm not squished under it, so I'm gonna call that a win. But that went sideways so fast, both literally and figuratively, because just as I started to move it, I saw that the two front legs were completely broken off. This is not from me trying to move it. This was already the case. Someone had just set it on top of the two front legs and we hadn't moved it since I bought the house. So, yeah, this is the situation, but it is away from the wall and I'm still alive, so we're calling it a win. Now all the primer is done, it's time for some math. Basically, because I don't want to paint all of the wall orange, I might, in the end, end up having the faux wainscoting on the bottom, which would be a cream color. And if I do that, which I think probably I will, I don't want to have to repaint the orange cream again. So we're only going to do the top part of the wall. But that means that I need to put tape to get a nice even line around. And to do that, I'm gonna have to measure, I think, well, I'll show you. So right there, I've put 2 pieces of tape at 76 centimeters. And that looks pretty good. I feel like that's kind of the height that we want. I could always change this later on if I decide to paint a bit more orange or a bit more cream. But yeah, I think 76 centimeters looks pretty good. It is finally time for a color coat. I'm so excited, partly because it's so exciting to get that far in here, and partly because it is midnight and I am exhausted, but tomorrow I have to go back to Paris. So it's getting done now or it's not getting done. So it's getting done now. Let's get a color coat on here. I'm gonna just do one coat just so I can see the future of this room, and then we're gonna call it a night.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry.
I am entirely covered in paint, but there is one color coat on the walls. I'm gonna not show you right now because I want to show you in the daylight where it will really pop and you can see what it looks like. So I'm gonna go to bed and fast forward to tomorrow morning where you can see the color coat in its full glory and full daylight. Good morning, it's the next morning and it is time to reveal how the orange looks in this room. Here it goes. So I should caveat that this is one coat, so it's much more uneven than the finished product will be, especially in this area here. Obviously, once I do 3 coats, it's going to be a bit darker and a lot more even, but I love it. I'm so excited. This is exactly the effect that I was hoping this would produce. The couple of things I love about it are, first off, that I love, if you look at the chandelier with the orange, it just makes it pop so much. I adore it. Secondly, it makes this room feel really warm and welcoming and cozy, but without making the room feel smaller. And I love that. I'm so happy with that. And thirdly, I'm really glad that down here I left the space for the faux wainscoting, because I definitely do want to do that. I have decided definitely that's going to happen. And it does something that I really like, because when you see wainscoting in a historic home, generally it's almost hip height. It's fairly high off the ground. And what I've actually done here very intentionally is I've made this wainscoting line lower than the standard height you would see in most historic homes, because I wanted to give this room the illusion of height. You can see that the ceiling is not really that high, and we lose even more height because of the beams. And I think that this does give a really good illusion of height. So I am so pleased with this. So I am very, very, very happy. I love how this is turning out. Unfortunately, this is going to have to be a multi-part video, because first off, this video is already super long. And secondly, I have to run up to Paris for a couple of days, and I won't be able to work on this for the next few days. So I'm going to have to make this continuing in the future project. So if you want to see how this all turns out, once I add some more coats, once I fill in the detail work, because I just did like a very rough paint, I didn't do any of the bordering or the edging. But if you want to see what happens, and especially if you want to see what this looks like when we add in the art and the furniture and expose the wood floor, we're going to refinish the whole wood floor. There's still quite a long way to go, including also the faux paneling that we have just talking about. So there's actually, now as I list things, I'm getting a little stressed. I'm like, there's actually really a lot to do left in this room. But I'm very excited to finish it and to see how it all turns out. If you want to see how it all turns out, then make sure that you subscribe to this channel, because that is the only way not to miss things. If you're subscribed, the YouTube algorithm will see that you like this kind of content and send you all the future happenings here at Everdeen, as well as more of this type of content from other creators. So yeah, if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you subscribe. And also, if you could take a moment to like this video, that's also really great. And with that, I will see you guys next time for the finishing of the dining room. With that, I will see you guys next time.